From the studios of Cheshire TV in Keene, New Hampshire, it's The Men's Room, a show by men, about men, and for everyone. Sponsored by the Monadnock Men's Resource Center and hosted by Damian Licata and Forrest Seymour.
Hi, and welcome to The Men's Room. And I'm Forrest Seymour. This is Damian Licata. And I said The Men's Room, not The Men's Show today.
Congratulations.
So, thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Good job.
The Men's Room is sponsored by the Monadnock Men's Resource Center, which also sponsors a drop-in support group for all men, which we'll talk more about at the end of the show. We also, I'm going to talk about this right now.
Right, the pink shoe.
The pink shoe.
The pink shoe.
That's right. The Monadnock Men's Resource Center, along with the Monadnock Center for Violence Prevention and Keene State College, and others are putting together a march. What is called
Walk a Mile in Her Shoes.
Walk a Mile in Her Shoes, the Men's March Against Rape, Sexual Violence, and so on April 14th, which is a Saturday. Registration starts at 9 o'clock at Keene State College in the Student Center, and then the march starts at 10. Should be over pretty quick. It's only a mile. However, men will be, if they can, if they wish, wearing women's shoes.
And we would encourage you or the men in your life to participate in this. There are varying ways of participating. You can help lead the march in a pair of shoes, similar to this lovely number.
Maybe larger.
Or you can just follow behind that lead group and just in solidarity.
That's right. The more men, the better. You don't have to wear. You don't have to wear women's shoes.
No, not a requirement.
Cool. It's really cool if you do.
It's a cool thing to do, but yeah.
So what's been on your mind?
You might be getting your picture in the paper, which
that's true,
is a
or at
big
least
plus.
your feet.
Yeah, in women's shoes. Try explaining that to your grandchildren.
For your resume.
That's right.
So what's been on your mind?
Well, you know what? It's funny. I came across this thing. There's been a lot of chatter recently, a lot of blogging and a lot of chatter online about this idea that Christianity is becoming overly feminized. There's been a lot of emphasis on the more gentle, loving, sort of nurturing,
wimpy.
Okay, let's say it. Sort of wimpy aspects of Christianity in general, Jesus in particular, and this has sort of left a lot of men apparently feeling alienated from their churches, not attending church, feeling like it's not manly enough for them, that it feels like a feminine environment and male friendly. This movement is sort of to make churches more masculine. This is men often don't like contemporary Christian praise music, for example. It's too dreamy songs with lovey-dovey words and so forth. They don't like sermons, which they say are boring, and images of a sweet, loving Jesus, as I said. And they've even complained about the sanctuary's decor. Saying it's a little too Martha Stewart.
You want like Budweiser signs up on the...
So, well, actually, interestingly enough, crossed swords and things like that.
Weaponry.
Right, yeah.
In the sanctuary.
Right, and they like more martial music, like Onward Christian Soldiers and things like that. I think the idea is that it's more sort of traditionally masculine values, more action-oriented.
I don't think this would get me to go to church, having martial music and weaponry in the sanctuary.
Well, I think one of the things that it assumes, that's exactly, kind of the issue, I think, is that it assumes that, there is one definite way of defining masculinity, and that if you attract this particular type of men, that then you're, de facto attracting all men. Or providing an environment for all men. So
it is pretty narrow, sort of.
Definition
of what.
It is, yeah, it is. And in my view, it is. And I think it's an interesting phenomena because I think it's a kind of backlash, as I see it, against the sort of rise of women in positions of power in a lot of churches.
Well, that's interesting. I also wonder, and I know we don't have time to get into this, but I wonder if...
We are over time.
We are over time. So really quickly, it being that our country's at war, whether that might be influencing, since there are almost some sort of religious war qualities to the war. I mean, we want our religion, not that we all are Christians, but we want the religion to be more muscular and more warlike.
Right. Yeah. I'm sure it's sociologically it's a fascinating and very complicated issue, but I just kind of interesting, and I'd love to hear from people out there about what their thoughts are about this.
Yes.
Too. So
Well, we'll have to get another minister or two on to talk about it with us too.
That'd be a great idea. Yeah.
So who do we have today?
Well, we have a great guest today, especially in light of last evening's events. Today we have Rob Colbert. He's in his 8th season, finishing up his 8th season as head coach of the Keene State College men's basketball team, the Owls. And the team has done great under his direction. Really unprecedented success. During his tenure, KSC men's basketball team has not only made 8 postseason appearances, claimed 4 conference regular season titles, but has also captured a first ever LEC championship and a trip to the NCAA Elite 8 in 2004.
Wow.
This year they are in Division III NCAA championships.
Great.
And originally from Warwick, Rhode Island. Native coach, Warwick, Rhode Island native. Coached at every level of college competition.
Those commas are so. You got to get
they are.
place.
They are.
Yeah.
But I haven't been reading long. I'm getting better. In any case, a really successful career at Keene State, and we can talk more about some of your previous experiences and so forth. But we want to welcome you, and
thank you.
First thing I want to do, welcome, is congratulate you.
Thank you.
What a great game last night.
Thank you.
81-47.
Wow.
I think that's pretty decisive.
Yeah.
We were fortunate to be on the top side of that.
Against
College.
Now it sounds more like fortune, more than just fortune. Sounds like a little bit of skill and practice there.
The players make you look good, don't they? We played really well. We had a great crowd, both community and students, and it was just a real fun environment. It makes this. We just entered yesterday our 6th month straight of going season-wise, so. It makes all that work worth it, and especially for the kids. So that's nice.
Yeah. I was able to listen to a portion of the game anyway last night on the webcast.
Sure.
That's on it, and just even through that medium, I mean, the crowd enthusiasm was really exciting to listen to.
There's not many venues during the winter that I think bring that many people together here in Keene. During the summer, it's often the Swamp Bats or the concert series. Things like that, but it's one of the nice things about this community and it's so unique, is the amount of people, again, both the local community and also the students that come together in that environment. So it's just a lot of fun.
It must be nice for the students who are on the team, the student athletes, to have that kind of turnout and that kind of enthusiasm.
It's really funny when we're recruiting kids. Very often we're talking to them about, you're going to be well supported, blah blah. And you're going to have this, you're going to get that, and this is great, and you're going to have to give autographs. And parents always perk right. Well, what do you mean they're going to have to give autographs? And I said, well, the people in town are going to know who you are, and the little kids. And we do some public appearances and some reading programs and things like that. Kids are going to know who you are, and they're going to, you're their connection. So, it's important that they know how to carry themselves appropriately, and that there are little eyes upon them.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. One thing that we've talked about here and here on the air and off the air a lot is sort of mentorship, and how for a lot of people look at young men, look at adolescent boys, and have a sense that there just are not the opportunities for mentorship for boys that there maybe once were, or at least should be. That there aren't a lot of men out there who are sort of ushering boys into manhood in a way that is healthy for them. I mean, boys end up, taking out their own rites of passage, which can be pretty destructive. But I think about your experience with the young men that are on your team, and I just wonder if you have thoughts about sort of that mentorship, rite of passage thing. What do you see? How do you see these men, these young, boys? I mean, they're boys when you first meet them, and they're men when they graduate. Right?
Yeah,
So
you're right. Sometimes we forget that they're boys because they're 6'8" and 240 pounds or 7 foot tall. But at the end of the day, they're 17 years old, they're 18 years old, and they're going through the same trials and tribulations of later adolescence and early manhood than else is. And I think it's one of the values of athletics in general, not just men's basketball, but of athletics in general, the fact that there is a relationship in place that provides that type of leadership, and hopefully we have quality people in those leadership roles. So I think it's one of the benefits of athletics, but if the wrong person or the wrong type of attitudes were expressed, it could also be one of the more detrimental.
So it's a powerful, there's a lot of responsibility, being a coach.
There's no question. Extremely powerful role You know, I tell people, you know, probably only 5–10% of my job involves actual basketball. You know, the rest of it involves, you know, serving as a counselor. You know, because the kids will tell you things that they won't tell their own parents. Sure. And so you know, you have to, you know, really have a good sense of how to deal with those things, and you really get a sense of how much goes into their minds every day. I mean, you know, for you it's just basketball because that's what you do for a living. Whereas for these kids, there's so many plates at once, especially, you know, at a very critical time of their life. So really helping keeping them balanced, I think, is one of the more important things we do.
And even more as a student athletes. I mean, they have all those things going on that students do, and then they're also athletes, and they've got all the time on the road and all that responsibility, and those signatures, those autographs to do.
You mentioned the sort of messages that they get and so forth from the coach, and what sort of mentoring they're getting, and you know that if it's the wrong sort of messages, it can have a really detrimental effect as well. One of the things that comes to mind for me when I think that is that you know, we have, you know, we see images in films, and we hear stories about, you know, coaches who you know, have this winning is everything or the only thing sort of attitude, that whatever it takes, that you go out there and you want to intimidate, you want to, you know, dominate, you want to be in, you know, in total control of that game, whatever it takes to do that. And oftentimes, I think that you know, can erupt into violence on you know, actually in the game at times. I mean, there was a few months ago, I don't remember the teams involved in a professional game where it actually came, a basketball game came to blows on the court.
That was, you're talking about Detroit. That was a year or so ago.
Yeah, a couple of years. Yeah, it was a while
Went
back.
into the stands, Detroit and the Pacers, I think it was.
It was something this year that happened similar to that. But
it does happen.
Yeah, I mean, you think of that thing in hockey, you don't necessarily think about it happening in basketball, but it does happen.
Yeah, if you're stoking a fire, you know, and you go too far, eventually that fire can get out of control, and I think that's what we're doing when we're trying to motivate kids, and we're trying to get them to play at a very high level. And so one of the things that we try to do, at least in our program, is to get kids understand, you know, to compete, and to compete mentally as well as physically. And yes, we do stress toughness, mental and physical toughness. Not cheapness, not outside of the lines, outside of the rules, but toughness in how they approach the game and how they play. And I think some of that toughness is an understanding, and this is one of the lessons that we hope they bring over into their life, is really twofold. First, to control the things that they have power over. You know, control their attitude, control their energy, control their, you know, we often say in education, you can't control your environment, but you can control your reaction to it. So that, I think, is really important. And then the second part of it is accountability. I do not have an expectation that my kids will always make the right decision. In fact, if they make the right decision all the time, I sometimes don't get a chance to educate. But when they do falter, you know, we want to hold them accountable, and we want to have it be an educational moment, and really getting them to say, hey, I was wrong here, or I was right here. Because I think that's part of manhood, is being able to step forward and hold yourself accountable, and to admit when you're wrong. And so that's some of the things that we try to do, and some of the value, I think, of athletics.
I think that's I think you're right on there. You know, I think that's a characteristic of manhood and sort of maturity that we often lose. I mean, it's sort of pop culture. Manhood often looks like, you know, there's no thing. I just know what I'm doing, and there's no, you know, no one can get in my way, and I'm never wrong. But that doesn't take you very far in real life.
Well, I'll tell you, it has gotten more difficult on that. The accountability aspect has gotten. I've been doing this now 15, 16 years, and it has, in the last 4 or 5 years, changed. I can't explain why, but parents have confused the issues. And I hate to throw that broad. I hate to throw that broad statement out there, but
go for it.
You know, it has become really difficult to hold a kid accountable, because I don't know about you guys, but when I was growing up, if I went home and said to my dad or my mom, "Hey, you know, I got in trouble today," you know, their response would be, "What did you do?"
Right.
And now seemingly the response is, you know, "I got in trouble today," and they'll say, you know, the response very often is, "What's coach's problem?" or "What's that teacher's problem? Why are they picking on you?" You know, and so, you know, I think there's been, you know, there's been some break in the ranks that we're all in this together to educate these people, and
parents tend to want to swoop in and
yeah, that no one wants to get hurt, no one wants to feel pain anymore, and I think that's part of growing up is learning how to deal with disappointment, how to learning to to deal with faltering or failure. You're not going to win all the time, but there certainly is a way to handle failure, disappointment, frustration.
Right.
And so
one of the things I think is challenging, that I wonder if it overlaps with what you're saying, is the idea of having to deal with a difficult situation. Like if you're having a conflict with your coach, well, what do you do about it? I mean, how do you solve that, or a conflict with somebody else? But how do you stick with that, figure out a solution, and move forward, as opposed to saying, oh well, it's not my responsibility, it's somebody else's thing.
And it's different with every kid. It's because some kids are not. Some of the student athletes are not comfortable coming in and just talking to you right off of the bat. They need to sit on it, to digest it, to think about it. Some of them prefer confrontation. It's funny. I've had some kids say, "Coach, you got to yell at me more." That's a foreign idea, getting that for. But some kids can't handle that at all. So I think it does take some time in learning how to respond and interact with each kid, and what really motivates them and what they respond to the best. And I would guess that parenting is much the same way.
Yeah. What do you think is gone wrong in terms of in some college environments? We hear about a lot of scandals having to do with their athletic teams, with men's teams in particular, with issues around sexual assaults and or violence or fighting and so forth on campus. Or drinking, out of hand drinking and things like that. Where do you think a lot of people try to make a connection between this on the field and off the field behavior? How do you see that?
I don't know how long your show is, but man, we can talk about that forever. They're part of the connection in my mind is, again, the accountability that, because you're a great football player, because you're a great basketball player, that's going to carry you through some mistakes that you've made. You're not going to be held accountable for that because we need you on the field or we need you on the court. And hopefully the reality in education should be, and I think President Brand of the NCAA is really getting back to the strong educational value and the strong mission of the NCAA and of its member institutions. But the business of this whole thing has spun a little bit to be a very profitable group. I mean, it was not originally intended for that. So I think, I really do think it boils back to accountability from the parents, from the coaches, to the college administrators. And they are adolescents. They are going to make mistakes, but when they do, we don't just put them on the field because they can kick or throw the ball or shoot the ball particularly well.
So when they make a mistake, the accountability is a factor in that.
Sure.
Are they more likely to make certain kinds of mistakes or to engage in certain kinds of behaviors as a result of,
I see what you're saying.
Their participation in athletics?
You know what? I would like to say no, but I would assume that in certain sports specific, the reality is maybe yes. Just a blanket statement that maybe football and basketball would be the two target sports out there for over-aggression, as I would call it, spilling over from the court of the playing surface into their everyday life. And what causes that? Like I said to you in the beginning, I think these kids are so they're so fired up and they're so emotional and they live their life with such emotion that getting hold of that emotion and keeping it in check and knowing the time and a place to use that is a lesson that they need to learn, and they need to be shown how to to balance that out. And unfortunately, it is at a very high price that when it does spill over, and because they are in the spotlight, because their names are known and their photos are known and their likeness is known and their teams are known, when they do make a mistake, it is much more publicized than if the general student makes a mistake. Let's be honest, on the college campus, the only people committing, and I would like to say it was zero, but the only people committing sexual assaults are not athletes. But the athletes are much more publicized because of who they are.
I know there's a lot of efforts too on campus to address for the entire student body, issues around sexual assault and dating violence and so forth. And I know that the athletic program participates in those,
Yep.
you know, to some degree as well.
Sure.
So
Yeah, Mona Anderson out of the counseling center on our campus has done a tremendous job. She's worked tirelessly with our athletic programs and our captains and our student athlete advisory council to do presentations and to involve the athletes in this type of stuff. Obviously, the athletes are at a higher. The statistics show that the athletes are at a higher risk for this type of behavior. You know, you can dispute as to why, but the fact that they're involved in it on a higher rate is indisputable.
Well, and then you know, I think another piece in the equation, not that we can sort it all out today at all, but is use of alcohol. I think that you know, and by no means is this just something on a college level issue for athletes only by any means, but still, I think there are teams or that have a certain culture around alcohol use, and there can be periods of time where there's more going on, and like there can be with any peer group. Sort of more
it is a tricky recipe or a tricky combination. When you take you take big ego, because athletes in general have very confident people and have larger egos, and you take you throw in the witch hazel of alcohol and all those different combinations. It can be a dangerous or a slippery slope. But we try to constantly work on teaching our kids. I know the whole department does, and every work on teaching the kids responsible behavior. And I think our coaches at Keene State have done a tremendous job at holding people accountable. We meet every year as a group and as an organization, as an institution, to discuss our mission, our overall mission statement, and how we're going to hold kids accountable, and what the lessons we're trying to teach really are. And I think, I think John Ratliff has done, our athletic director, and Dr. Kopak have done a tremendous job at making sure we keep things balanced. And one of the things Dr. Kopak always says to me, which really brings me back to the fact that this is an educational institution, this isn't just an athletic institution, is, don't lose the opportunity to have an educational moment. Every moment is an educational moment, and
so you're not just a coach; you're a teacher too.
Oh, there's no question. I don't submit that there's a difference. I really think, in some senses, it's a higher level of teaching because of the diversity
so
of
personal lives as well that enter into it too. That you had this mentoring piece.
Yeah, if my job were just coaching, I'd have a lot of time off. I'd have a lot of time off.
Yep.
Well, we only have a couple minutes left. I don't know if you want. You have.
No, I didn't. No, I just wanted to comment that I think that there are a lot of bright spots. I think in terms of what happens with the athletic program, particularly at Keene State, certainly with that basketball team. And I'm remembering there was an event at the Fuller School, elementary school. It might have been last year or the year before, but I don't know if you do this every year or not. But where the players came and worked with the kids around some basic basketball skills, and they were signing autographs and signing T-shirts, and the kids were just so much in awe of these guys, and they were I would say that's the kind of role model I would like to see, for my kids. They conducted themselves beautifully, and they were really.
Despite all the, we've had I shouldn't say despite, but a lot of people are really excited about our wins and losses, and I am too, and the fact that we're in the NCAA tournament. But I think the reality is, I'm really proud of our kids for how they handle themselves, throughout the course of the year. They've been nothing but great ambassadors for our program.
That's nice. Absolutely,
that's great.
Yeah. So. What's next? Tomorrow is
Tomorrow we play at Salem State in the NCAA tournament, second round of the tournament at Salem State at 7 p.m. Tomorrow morning, Saturday morning, tickets will go, what limited tickets we have access to will go on sale. So if people want to buy them, I think it's either 9 or 10 at the gym. They can get more information off the website.
Yep. So we're confident going into that game?
Oh, it's going to be a fun game. It's not going to be like yesterday was. It's definitely not going to be like last night.
They'll be ready for you.
Yeah.
It'll be great.
Well, good luck with that.
Thank you much for having me, guys.
Appreciate it.
It's great to have you on.
Well, that's really interesting. I do not come from a family that has a lot of athletic background or experience, but
I had some cousins who were all really into the hockey program at their school in Revere, Mass.
But and I really, you know, it's interesting talking
personally,
but talking to Rob really gives me a better sense of what the potential is out there for kids involved in sports. And
I think it can be
a powerful thing that can
enormously positive, you know. But because it is so powerful, I think it has the potential. You know,
it could go both ways.
As Rob said, it could go both ways.
Right.
Absolutely.
So, you want to talk about the men's group real quick?
Absolutely. We do want to mention this is, as we said, this program is sponsored by the Monadnock Men's Resource Center, which also brings a drop-in support group for men to the community. This is the brochure for it. These stands are at various places around the community. If you see one, I would encourage you to pick one up if you're at all curious. It's every Sunday at 7 o'clock. We meet at the Life Arts Center from 7 to 9. Life Art generously donates that space.
And that's right next to Aubuchon's Hardware on
Roxbury Street.
Right at the back of the Aubuchon's parking lot. Little sign says Life Art.
That's right. It's a 2-hour drop-in group. It's a very simple format. And it's just creates a safe place for guys to get together and talk about what's going on.
That's right. We've been doing this for almost 5 years now, towards 5 years now in Keene, and virtually every night. We've been there on
every Sunday night.
Every Sunday night, excuse me. Every Sunday night, every week. We've been there on Christmas night. We've been there on Super Bowl Sunday, and men come. You know, so it's a place to come. To have a chance to talk with other men about whatever is on your mind. It's not, of course, some men come and don't say anything. They just like to sit there and listen.
That's right. Yep.
And it's you know, and another thing to think about if you're a woman watching the show is there other men in your life who you think might benefit from having a chance to talk with other guys, and send them, because you know, the reality is that for a lot of men to do this kind of stuff, it takes a little bit someone pushing them out the door to go do something that's good for you.
And if you're curious more, want to know a little bit more about it before you take that step and walk through that door, you can check us out on our website, www.mmrconline.org.
That's right.
And you'll find information about the drop-in support group, about this program. You'll find these programs archived there.
Links to our YouTube archive page.
Yeah. Right? That's right. And you can also contact us through that website as well.
So, do you know who we have on next week?
Who?
I think it's AJ.
Oh, that's right. Thank you. We have AJ Page coming on the show. He works with the homeless population in this area. Does a lot of work with veterans.
That'd be great.
And he will have some very interesting things to say about.
Sure will.
You know, what contributes to those issues.
You've been watching The Men's Room. Thanks for joining us here in The Men's Room, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the web and back here on Cheshire TV in the weeks to come.
Thanks a lot.